The world in general has changed since the outbreak of the coronavirus, and the media world certainly not exempt from that. In-home entertainment booming while theaters sit empty. Check out the market caps of the biggest names in media as of last night. Yeah, all of these companies have taken a hit. So how will the companies try to adapt to this new media world, and are deals being put off because of the pandemic? Joining us right now to answer that is Aryeh Bourkoff. He is the founder and CEO of LionTree. Aryeh, as you probably know, has been the banker behind some of the biggest media deals that we've seen. And Aryeh, let's talk a little bit about how coronavirus impacted M&A when it comes to the media industry. We saw all kinds of businesses just shut down. Was that the case where deals fell apart behind the scenes at that point, too?
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you, and really nice to see everyone, even remotely.
Good to see you, too.
Second of all, while we're going to talk about media and M&A and all very important topics to us, obviously the biggest issue out there is the level of social unrest and unemployment there is in many of these communities, obviously in New York, in the U.S. in particular. So my thoughts go out with all of those factors, and that lives with all of us and how we really kind of deal with this crisis, and we'll continue to deal with this crisis. So I always like to think about the markets and M&A and media as a bit of a secondary factor, but certainly core to what we're doing every single day here in the business world. But I think from your perspective and your question, no question, M&A is down, probably about 70% by our numbers versus last year. And that means that things are tougher to get done, that there are deals that would fall apart, some fairly, some unfairly. And then there are other prospects and opportunities that come out from this crisis, given the fact that the markets are seemingly so healthy, and the financing markets all the way into the high yield markets are robust right now, which is a bit of a head scratcher, but you know what, we'll take it. And that's a great technical factor that will lead to future M&A. So we're seeing a lot of discussions. We've had about conversations with probably about 200 different CEOs during the course of April, even remotely. And everyone is talking about deal making in some kind or another, whether it's a divestiture, a financing that they need, or future offensive opportunities.
You know, that's what I was trying to figure out. You know, Aryeh, if you walk through what's going through CEOs' minds right now, I think the best CEOs, the most conservative ones, are trying to be really careful. They've been raising money if they can in the private markets or in the public markets. They've been trying to shore up their balance sheets. And so when you start thinking about expansion, I have a hard time thinking that many of them are thinking, OK, I'm going to grab all this stuff and make a big push for expansion like I might have a year or two ago. But then you get to the point where people look around and they say, this is a new world and we need to figure out how we can team up with other people to make us stronger. And frankly, some of the deals that would come with that, if you're looking at those type of deals, are going to mean additional layoffs, correct?
Well, there are all kinds of deals. When you talk about M&A deals in general, you think about expansion as you talked about it. But there are deals that we're looking at now that require financing to save companies from periods of time with no revenue. Like, think about a lot of companies in travel and events and businesses where social distancing has really impacted the business. And there are other deals where you have accelerants going into the industry, where you have an in-home dynamic, gaming, streaming, and so on. And companies want more of that home networking, software plays, communication. So it's not necessarily all about expansion and luxury deal making. It's also about necessity and how to live in this new world. Everyone wants to be more insulated in the home these days. And I think you're going to see more deals that kind of reorient portfolios of the platform players and the media and technology and telecom companies to have the right set of assets for this new normal.
What do you tell CEOs when they ask you for advice? What's the best thing you can offer them right now?
Well, everyone, when we're having conversations, are there for each other. How are you doing? How are your employees? How are your people? Sharing best practices. We do a best practices virtual kind of town hall Zoom every week with 5 to 7 different CEOs, just to talk among ourselves about how we're getting people back to work, how we're treating employees in this time. And then the deal making is really secondary to kind of how you're talking about the community that you have. And I think having a community, knowing your network right now, is of paramount importance. That's where the trust is. That's why you can work from home remotely and have these connections. People that are still building their careers are getting robbed of that a little bit right now. That will have to come later. But so we're very grateful to have a community, but everyone's really thinking about, okay, what are you missing? And so it could be, I have a great company, great balance sheet, things look to be very strong. Where can I play offense in the future when I'm ready? And that's part of the conversation. The other side is I need capital quickly. My business has been very much disrupted by this environment, whether that's an events business, a travel business, a fashion or retail business, or in the sports industry. A lot of areas have been disrupted as a result of this that need help. And in the middle, there are companies that are saying, you know what, we are independently minded. That's been great in normal cycles, but we can't afford that right now. We need to have a bigger company to share costs, spread costs over know-how. And a lot of companies are really doing like-for-like deals like that, where there's a benefit on both sides. That's really what the Virgin deal with Liberty Global and Telefonica was all about in the UK, which is two companies that just makes a lot of sense coming together at this moment. And those will happen in every market cycle.
Hey, Aryeh, I just wanted to ask you about that particular transaction. Really just wanted to ask you actually about the practicalities of putting that together in a world where we are living remotely. This is probably one of the largest transactions in history that I can think of that was negotiated and done completely, probably, I imagine, over Zoom.
Well, actually, it's even more old-fashioned than that. It wasn't even Zoom or video conferencing. It was just a telephone in this case. And so while Zoom has been going on in a lot of cases, and we're doing it right now, in this deal, we did do it remotely down the stretch, and we did it over the phone. And so no one had to see how each other's hairstyles have changed and whether we're like wearing a suit or not. It was all over the phone. But it's all about the people and the CEOs, and that conversation we're coming on, I think, later for you. Mike Fries and Jose Maria from Telefonica have an existing trust. And I think that's the element of these deals that you could do remotely. But it is a large deal, and grateful to have it over the finish line now.
Right. What is your sense of the antitrust environment in this environment, in this pandemic world, insofar as there are transactions that clearly would not have been allowed only 2 months ago, but we're going to get into a situation, I imagine, I hate to say it, where there are going to be challenged and troubled companies in the media and telecom space that typically would not necessarily have been allowed to merge with others. But are you of the view that there's going to be allowances for certain types of transactions that would have otherwise been off the table historically?
I'm glad you brought this up because it's not being discussed enough right now, but it will be in the future, which is this regulatory posture towards deal making is shifting, and it's either going to be a helpful dynamic or it's going to be a big constraint to logical deal making. And I don't mean logical deal making in the sense of let's get rich and let's do all these different things to just kind of enrich these companies. I mean, good deal making to help solidify companies for the benefit of their employees and this country in particular should be allowed to get through. And there's going to be there's more scrutiny from the government around these deals now, both based on foreign ownership restrictions that we try to bring supply chain back into the country. And I think you'll see some difficulty around cross-border deals. Also around deals that normally would be unthinkable that should build scale are necessary now to have reinvestment. I mean, the FCC has done a very good job, I think, in helping these deals along. The DOJ has had a more spotty track record recently. And I think, we were not involved in this deal, but McGraw-Hill and Cengage being, basically terminated seemed to be a little bit of a head scratcher because that would have been a very good deal for the education space, which is necessary right now for our country. And I think we have to really figure out whether there's more fluidity between the business community, the private sector, and the government.
And then the other question I was going to ask is about sports rights and some of the other issues that are out there, and the haves and the have-nots. I would imagine it's going to be very difficult for another transaction that you worked on, CBS Viacom, for CBS Viacom to bid on the NFL and spend the money that they historically did without otherwise shedding all sorts of other parts of their business. Disney's going to be challenged. Does that give an opportunity either to the Silicon Valley folks, to Comcast, which has a solid balance sheet during this? How do you see this all shaking itself out?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's pretty incredible to see the Silicon Valley platform companies coming out of this crisis or in the middle of this crisis thriving, really. I mean, I think the FANGs are now 20% of the market capitalization of our country, which is unprecedented. And by the way, they're well-deserved. They're doing great. They're building their businesses. Cloud's great. All the platform players are doing very well. That being said, there's been no industry more disrupted in media than sports right now. And that reminds me of the old music, reorientation that kind of got reworked and then kind of built up again after Steve Jobs wrote out iTunes. But sports has to get really reworked as part of this crisis. And I think you'll see all the ecosystem start to unravel a bit and create opportunities for new entrants and new capital. And that's everything from labor contracts from the players to the teams to the leagues to the media rights to the broadcasters. And I think the way that Viacom CBS plays it will be interesting. But I think NFL, in my mind, is core to CBS, and they'll probably keep it, in my opinion. But again, the technology players are coming on strong, and I think the entire sports ecosystem will get reworked from a direct-to-consumer perspective.
Hey, Aryeh, what happens in terms of how long you think, or how long these CEOs think that this is going to last in terms of the shutdowns for things like the parks, the movie theaters, all of those issues? What's the game plan right now, in your best guess?
Well, I mean, I think there's a real tendency to try to simplify this by saying it's going to snap back and everyone is going to get back to work with the human spirit and energy really pushing us there. Maybe that's the case in certain parts of the country. You certainly don't feel that coming in New York, in spite of people coming into Central Park when there's a sunny day, et cetera. But I think the media industry is preparing for it to really happen as a 2021 event. I think 2020 has been more of a write-off, just getting everything ready for the new normal. It's really a question of, can 21 be better than 19? That's the new judge of success. And I think in some cases, things will go back to where they were. I think people will go to concerts again. There'll be new safety standards. There'll be other sort of parameters in place to ensure health and safety and safe spaces. But in other cases, the industry is going to get reworked. You're seeing that with AMC theaters and Universal now. I read a great article in Foreign Affairs that this is not as much of a rethinking about our economy as much as an accelerant to where it was already going to go. More e-commerce, more in-home streaming, industries get reworked. The theater industry had to get reworked anyway, in my opinion. And I think ultimately it'll happen for the better, but there's going to be a lot of disruption after this crisis.